Welcome back. Watch my absolutely devastating loss against my opponent. I thought I was doing okay for a while, but I was very wrong. Let's see how I lost against Bumhole. We get 4 lands and some cheap instants we can play early on. Abrade specifically only takes 1 red mana. We are going to keep our hand. Our deck relies on making dragons. I explain it in a previous video. Make sure to watch it. Our opponent plays a Swamp and Grave Expectations. It costs 1 black mana and allows them to look at 3 random non-land cards from our library and exile one of them. They may later cast that card for any color mana. We don't know what the card they chose is. Grave Expectations is an alchemy card, meaning that it's only available for online play on MTG Arena. We play Eroded Canyon, which deals 1 damage to the opponent. It is either a blue or a red mana land. The opponent plays Rakdos Guildgate, which is a land for black or red. We don't want to play our Dragon Master Outcast too early because its toughness is only 1 and it can be taken out easily. We play an island and pass to our opponent. They play Brass's Tunnel Grinder, which is an artifact. When it enters, it lets them discard any number of cards and draw that many plus 1. At the beginning of their end step, if they discarded any cards this turn, they can put a counter on the artifact. Once the artifact has 3 counters on it, it transforms into a Tekutlin, the Searing Rift, which is a red land that also allows them to discover X anytime they cast a permanent using mana produced by this land. X is the spell's mana value. Discover X lets them exile cards from their library until they get to a non-land spell with mana cost X or less, which they can then either cast without paying its cost or put into their hand. Here, they discarded 3 cards and drew 4. Because they discarded, they got a counter this turn. We just played a mountain and they played Raucous Theater, which is a land that lets them look at the top card of their library and either keep it there or put it in their graveyard. Then they play Impetuous Lootmonger, which is a 2/2 creature with first strike. When it enters, they again get to look at 3 cards in our library and optionally keep 1 to cast later. Additionally, the creature gives them a treasure token for any spell of ours that they cast. We play Essence Scatter, an instant that counters this spell. They still get a counter for the Brass's Tunnel Grinder. On our turn, we finally can place a creature, Razzle Dazzler, which is 1/2 and gets a +1/+1 counter every time we cast 2 spells each turn. They play Laughing Jasper Flint. Its text says, creatures you control but don't own are mercenaries in addition to their other types. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, where X is the number of outlaws you control. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. We abrade it quickly, which lets them transform Brass's Tunnel Grinder into a land. On our turn, we play a land and Ancestral Reminiscence, which lets us draw 3 cards and discard 1. We are looking for Rite of the Dragoncaller, so we want to cycle through our library until we find it. We still only have 5 lands, and we need 6 for Dragon Master Outcall's ability to activate, so we play a Reckless Lackey instead, which gives our Razzle Dazzler a +1/+1, and it cannot be blocked this turn. The Lackey has haste, so we attack with both creatures. Opponent plays Alicia, who laughs at fate. Its text reads, whenever Alicia attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. At the beginning of your end step, if you attack this turn, return target creature card with mana value less than or equal to Alicia's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. They use mana from Tekutlin, which activates its ability, so they look through their library for a creature with converted mana cost of 3 or less. They find Laughing Jasper Flint and place him on the battlefield, along with Alicia. They also place a Deep Cavern Bat, which lets them look at our hand and pick a non-land spell to exile under the bat while the bat is still alive. Now we finally have enough lands in play for the Dragon Master Outcast ability to trigger. It needs 6 lands, and on every upkeep step, it gives us a 5/5 dragon. It will give us a significant boost if it can survive long enough. We are also going to play Fiery Annihilation, which deals 5 damage. We take out Laughing Jasper this way. Razzle Dazzler gets a counter because this is our second spell this turn and cannot be blocked. We attack with Razzle Dazzler and the opponent is down to 13. We are still at 20. My opponent plays Grasping Shadows, a black +3 generic mana enchantment. Its text reads, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. Put a Dread counter on Grasping Shadows. Then if there are 3 or more Dread counters on it, transform it. It transforms into Shadow's Lair, which is a land which can be tapped for 1 black mana to remove a counter and allow the player to draw 1 card and lose 1 life. Because Grasping Shadows is a permanent, it activates Tekutlan's ability, which discovers Insatiable Avarice. Insatiable Avarice is a sorcery that has 2 abilities, either allowing the player look through their library and put a card on top, or to target a player who then draws 3 cards and loses 3 life. The opponent attacks me with Alicia, so it gets Lifelink and Death Touch from Grasping Shadows and a +1/+1 counter because of its own ability. We take 3 damage. Lifelink gives my opponent 3 life, and Alicia's end of turn ability activates to bring back Impetuous Lootmonger back on the battlefield. This triggers its ability to choose 1 of 3 cards from our library to essentially steal. Our own Dragon Master gives us a 5/5 dragon, so we are feeling good. We play Seize the Secrets to draw 2 cards. We draw Slick Sequence, which is an instant we can play to take out either Impetuous Lootmonger or Deep Cavern Bat. We choose Impetuous Lootmonger. Because this is the second spell this turn, we draw a card as a result of a Slick Sequence ability, and our Razzle Dazzler gets another counter and cannot be blocked. We attack with it. Opponent down to 12, we are at 17. The opponent plays Fiery Annihilation, one of the cards they stole from us, and remove our Razzle Dazzler. Then they attack with Alicia again, which gets another counter and lifelink and Death Touch as before. This time we block with our 5/5 dragon, but Alicia doesn't die. I think that's because it has Death Touch and First Strike, so it kills the dragon before taking any damage. We are sad. Alicia's ability brings back Lootmonger yet again, so our opponent steals another card from us. Because of this Alicia special ability, the opponent can keep doing this every turn until we take Alicia out, which should be our priority. We don't really have the cards in hand to do it this turn, so we sacrifice the Reckless Lackey for 2 generic and 1 red mana. We draw a card and create a treasure token, hoping for something like Fiery Annihilation. But we draw another Razzle Dazzler, which we play, and we play Shock to take out the bat. This gives us back our Hell to Pay, which will allow us to take out Alicia when we have enough mana. But we don't have enough mana this turn. We need a total of 5. We don't attack and end out turn. They play another Deep Cavern Bat. We use 2 blue to play our Out of Air instant to counter this creature spell because we don't want them to steal our Hell to Pay. The Tecathlon ability still activates and they place an innocuous rat on the battlefield. They again do their Alicia attack with Lifelink and Death Touch and First Strike. The Grasping Shadows transforms into a land. We need to block, I think, which means we are going to lose our Dragon token once again to the deadly Death Touch plus First Strike combo. Their end of turn, Alicia activity activates and they bring Jasper back. We are finally able to use Hell to Pay to get rid of Alicia. We pay a total of 6 mana. We play our only other card we have in hand, Reckless Lackey. This is our second spell this turn, which gives our Razzler a counter and it cannot be blocked this turn. On their turn, Laughing Jasper lets them steal another 2 of the cards in our library. We have 0 cards in our hand, so they can play more of our cards than we can. The cast Unstoppable Slasher, which has 2/3 and Death Touch. Its card reads, whenever Unstoppable Slasher deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life, rounded up. When Unstoppable Slasher dies, if it had no counters on it, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. They bring in Eternal Thirst, which is an aura enchantment that gives the enchanted creature lifelink, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. They put it on the rat. They use one of our cards, Slick Sequence, to kill our lackey and trigger this ability. Next, they bring another Alicia. Things are looking grim for us with no cards in hand. They attack with the rat, and we block with the dragon. The rat dies, which lets them bring a face-down creature with 2/2 onto the battlefield. Later on, they can turn the card over. They bring back the bat, but we have no cards to give them. Small consolation. We draw Shock and immediately remove Alicia, while she still has only toughness of 2. We attack with our Razzler and Dragon. The Unstoppable Slasher blocks, which kills him but brings him back with a stun counter. Our opponent steals more cards from us. Then they play Hell to Pay, one of our own cards, to take out our Dragon Caller. No more dragons for us on every turn. They play Ancestral Reminiscence, another one of ours, and draw 3 and discard 1 card. Then they cast their face-down card, and surprise, it is Alicia once again. They play another Impetuous Lootmonger, discard a card, and steal another one from our library. Then they attack us with Alicia, on her own, to get the counter. We block with the dragon so she dies. We attack with both of our dragons. Our opponent doesn't block because our dragons have flying. We deal 10 damage and the opponent is down to 5 life, while we still have 17. They steal more cards from our library. Then they cast Alicia again, activating Tekutlin. They bring in a bat. We still have no cards in hand, so they can't take anything from us. They play Rodeo Pyromancers, another one of our cards. It's a 3/4 creature that additionally gives 2 red mana the first time a spell is played each turn. Very nice. They also play Scalding Viper, yet another card of ours. This one deals 1 damage to an opponent every time they cast a spell with converted mana cost of 3 or less. Every time they play one of our cards, they get 2 treasure tokens because of the Impetuous Lootmongers. Each token can be converted to mana. That's very nice for our opponent. They get to supplant their deck with all the good cards from our deck and get free mana from it. They play a land that heals them for 1. They are up to 6 now. They attack us with the 2 Lootmongers and 1 bat. We can't block because we are tapped. We take 5 damage. The bat has lifelink, so they go up to 7. This activates Alicia's end of turn ability, so they bring another bat from the graveyard onto the battlefield. Now we at last draw Rite of the Dragoncaller, by far our best card. Every time we play an instant or a sorcery, it will give us a dragon. The only problem is that we have no cards to play, so we just attack with everything we got. We take out 2 of the bats, but lifelink gives our opponent 2 more life. On their turn, they steal more from us. And then they play our Dragon Master, which is pretty devastating for us. They bring Grave Expectations in, using Tekutlin's ability. They take yet another card from our library. They play another card of ours, Demand Answers. This lets them discard a card and draw 2 more. They play another Grave Expectations, stealing more cards from us. Demand Answers again. Then Seize the Secrets. Are they looking for a specific card? What more could they need? They play Rodeo Pyromancers again. Then they play another Innocuous Rat. Followed by another Grave Expectations, taking another card from us. They play Hell to Pay, using some of the banked treasure tokens and destroying one of the dragons. They play Eternal Thirst again, which is an aura that give the creature lifelink. They give it to the Unstoppable Slasher. Then they attack with just enough to leave us at 1 life. Do you think this is a coincidence or were they messing with us? We draw a land, which is not very useful in our situation. At least it pings them for 1 life. We attack with our single dragon, but of course that is almost nothing. On their next turn, they continue to toy with us, but they can simply destroy us. So what do you think? Where did we go wrong this game? Did we have any chances given our deck? Or is it simply a matter of our deck being bad? What sort of stuff would we need in order to prevent this in the future? Their strategy seemed to rely at least in part on being able to use the opponent's spells, which means they could really focus their deck on getting to those spells instead of having a well-rounded deck.